phones at the What is going on around here?
Puppies. Lost all control.
Lost all
They're
control.
only using the camera function.
That's it. We've got caught cheating. Imagine the day when in school you used to pass notes, it's probably your
Text constantly.
I heard that. Well, they can't spell especially guys. Because they text, I was like, you have to do it yourself. You know, the all cell phones was not on because I've got how to spell that.
We're going to have their lives.
And we've dragged it out. That's right. I know you're going to call it fussy.
I guess.
Let's call this commission meeting order. Please rise and lift the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Stanley?
Here.
Commissioner White? Here. Commissioner Orthwein?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Let the record show that our attorney, John Randolph, is present, as is the town manager, Mr. Thrasher. And the record should show that Mr. Ganger is absent with notice.
We've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the July 8th meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I so move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Our next meeting is September 9th. The meeting will not be at 9 o'clock. It'll be at 4 p.m. because it will then be followed by our budget hearing meeting at 5:01. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I looked in the online background records for this meeting, and I noticed the letter from Commissioner Ganger, where he advised that while he recovers the mental processes, he's resigned from the commission. I'd just like to say publicly, and I'm sure I speak for Mr. Hayseth and the other people in the audience and the commission, that we hope Mr. Ganger recovers as quickly as possible and has many, many healthy and happy years to spend pursuing his interest and enjoying his family.
Thank you, sir.
Next, Mr. Moffett in the Coastal Star reports that you said, in regard to the underground lawsuit, and of course with Mr. O'Hare, always a claim for monetary damages. Not a comment I would have expected from someone in your office. Certainly not something I would have heard Mr. Koch say when he was here. And I'm not sure what you're implying by that, but I just want to set the record straight. Any monetary damages, other than to pay for the legal advice I've gotten from university professors, etc., I'm going to donate to the HOA. for Plaza Soleil, because I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in the right thing being done. While we're on the subject of legal fees, I've done a lot of record requests for Jones Foster's, Mr. Sweetapple's, Mr. Richmond's legal fees. And Mr. Randolph's firm will give you an invoice that says things like, spoke to the mayor for 30 minutes, $100, whatever it is. But it's all itemized. However, when I've done record requests for Mr. Richmond, all I get is a bill that says, for the month of June, give me $50,000. You have a responsibility to oversight, the fiduciary oversight of these bills. How do you check to see if his record is accurate? When he says 50,000, it should be 45,000. There's no itemization. I would like to ask the commission to consider going back to Mr. Richmond, ask him to break it down. I think it's a public record. Everybody should be entitled to know where that money was spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Sir?
Good morning, Terry Cudmore, I live at 3557 Polo. I'm just concerned about, or my wife's very concerned about, there's a lot of standing water in the community, and a couple of years ago I built a home at 3250 Polo Drive for the Clarks, and there was that at the time seemed to be the lowest spot in the community. There was always water in front of it. When we built the house, we put together a drainage program with an exfiltration as well as some French drains. And if you go by there, even in a big rain, there's rarely, if ever, water standing there anymore. Right now in the corner of Polo and Old School, there is always water standing there. So, you know, with the Zika virus and everything else, my wife's concerned, there's a lot of mosquitoes in that area, and I'd just like to see if the town could do something to look at, you know, when all the lift stations and things were put in, there's all kinds of things at different elevations that don't allow the water to drain. And the other thing is that the home that I'm currently in, the water sheds off the driveway right into the street, which I'm going to take care of through a drain going across the driveway. But the home across the street, when it rains, there is a flood of water that just pours off the driveway. I have photos, which maybe this isn't the right time to bring them up, but it's just water, so much water comes off of the hard surface, and nothing is taken care of with any sort of drainage. And you can see it walking down the street. The property's there, the land in almost every case is higher than the driveway. No water is being retained by any of the homeowners on that street, and if you were to build those homes now, you would never be allowed to do this. So I'm just wondering if there's any way we can look at this. When they widened Old School, I talked about perhaps doing some sort of drainage at that time, but we apparently not. So I just want to see if we can do some sort of study and do something about all the standing water. Even today, I don't think it rained yesterday. There's there's water standing on the street, and I think it could be taken care of with some drainage program.
Thanks, Mr. Cudmore. The town manager can address water and drainage in his report, at least touch on it, and we can decide if further investigation is required. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Before we begin taking testimony today, any ex parte communications by commission members? Ms. Taylor, would you administer oaths to anyone who's going to speak today?
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Mr. Cooper?
Good morning. My name is Bruce McCoopy. I'm the architect of record for the project. I'm here with Dave Bachner, the landscape architect. This house, there's an existing home on the property at 3133 Polo Drive. We intend to, it's a one-story residence at this time. We intend to demolish it, keep the pool, do some minor modifications to the pool, and then build another one-story house, although we're allowed to build a two-story house. There's a large tree in the front yard that we're trying to keep, which is why we came up with this design. For the record, we did submit drainage plans, and it keeps all the drainage on site. We have exfiltration trenches and trench drains on the driveways. The site plan, Polo Drive is on the bottom, the large tree, as you can see, we dashed in, and we did a driveway that we did, instead of doing two garage doors side by side, we split them apart so that we could keep the large tree and have the driveway go around it. The new residence is gonna be, the finished floor of the residence is gonna be within 6 inches of the old residence. The current problem is that the pool, which we're trying to keep, sits about a foot higher than the house at this time. So if it overflows or rains, they have the water coming down towards the house, and then it sort of wraps around and goes around the house. So in order to fix that, we've raised the finished floor 6 inches from where it currently sits, and then we're gonna cut down the top of the pool beam 12 inches so that the pool will be 6 inches below the house by the time we're done with it. But it's gonna be sitting in the same place, and the drainage and everything will work. 4 bedrooms, single-family home. It matches up with everything around it. We could have done a 2-story. We didn't want to. We wanted to keep it a 1-story because we thought a 2-story would be imposing on all the neighbors. It's already sits, if you've gone by the property, you probably know it sits up about 5.5, 6 feet above from the road. So we wanted to keep the house a 1-story. The color of the roof tile is just a gray antique. You can see the colors of the house on the landscape drawing. It's just white garage doors, mahogany entry door, light blue. Light blue shutters, and then, which is the Phillipsburg blue, and then a very light color. That shows a darker gray color tile, but it's really an antique gray beige tile is what we're calling it, for what you see throughout Gulfstream. The landscape, Dave can speak about the landscape, but we're here to answer any questions you may have regarding the project. We're under every regulation.
Yeah, I think a 1-story house is really a good idea for that lot. But I know it's within limits because it's here. It's 6 inches. It's already the highest point there. I mean, where's the 6 inches? It's going to be even higher? Or, that's my question. Even though it doesn't sound like one.
Actually, we provided the house at 3121 is actually higher than.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't.
Actually, it doesn't appear that
to
way.
be that way.
But according to the survey and everything, the house to the south. The finished floor of lot 9, which is the house to the south, is at 14.6 currently.
Okay.
And we're going to be at 13.75, so we're going to be about a foot below,
Okay. That was my.
9 to 10 inches below.
Yeah. But I think a 1-story house is very appropriate for that lot. And the tree is beautiful. It needs to be to preserve
It
it.
will, and we're going to have to fence it off and make sure that it's watered during construction and everything. So
But it is beautiful.
we wouldn't have gone through all this if he wasn't going to spend the money to save it.
Yeah.
The bilateral garages are an interesting design, and I understand why you have to do it. And I like the way you put the gray shutters with the roof, which kind of highlight the emphasis on the tree and take your eyes away from the 2 garages on either side of the building. That's a nice touch.
Thank you. One question that came up during the Architectural Review Committee's board's approval was that why didn't I just put the 2 doors together on one side? And it was to save the tree, and then when we put them on one side, it was very imposing, and then it sort of caused us to do a side entry, which made us go to 2 stories. And we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, the tree's magnificent.
Yeah. I think it's creative. I've never seen anything quite like that. But it was
Hopefully
creative.
When it's done, you won't even notice the house because of the tree.
In the drawings that we have, the garage doors have the appearance of boards because they're lined. What material are the garage doors made out of?
They're wood. They're wood painted white.
They're paneled wood. Then how do they open?
Overhead.
Overhead?
Same
Is it one piece that just lifts up, or do they?
It's a typical, it's Same as a typical overhead door, but it has wood on the whole facade.
Okay.
It
So
has
so
tongue and-
it's in segments that it opens. Okay,
Correct.
'cause it looks like, in the picture, it looks like one solid piece all the way down.
I think how it is.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
didn't know if the whole door came out.
If you look very carefully, you'll see some
It's
horizontal, very
segmented,
light
yeah.
lines
Okay.
that are the creases of where it is. But when closed and tight, it's supposed to look like an old fashioned door.
Okay, and it's wood faced.
Yes.
Any other questions, Mr. Coopey?
No, I'm thrilled it's gonna be a one-story house.
It's great that you're preserving that look, it really is.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions,
I think it's lovely.
that's great.
I'd like to approve the demolition permit to demolish existing dwelling at 3133 Polo Drive, which is legally described as lots 8 replat of Gulfstream Properties.
Is there a second?
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Staley? Or
Yes.
Stanley, pardon me. I do know your name.
It is all
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Any other motion?
I guess. No, what's Tom? Why are you sleeping?
Done. You,
You can do it.
all right, motion to recommend approval of a land clearing permit to permit a portion of the site for the new structure. To
I'll
prepare
second,
a portion of the site for a new structure.
I'll second that.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Third motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed construction of a one-story, 4,753 square foot, single-family Anglo-Caribbean style dwelling with attached 2-car garage meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. The electrical service line shall be buried, and 2, any minor modifications in the landscape plan should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of landscaping.
I'll second that.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rusty. All right, let's move on to reports. The undergrounding report from Mr. Brown.
He's not here.
He's not here. Let me update that as best I know. The notice to proceed with our contractor was to be issued, I believe, this week.
That's what I heard.
Okay, to your knowledge, has that been done, Mr. Brad?
No.
It has not, or you don't know?
No, I do not believe it has been completed as yet.
Okay. Any reason why not?
I think it has to do with the coordination of the materials. The materials from FP&L have been shipped, and, but not on site. The arrangement has to be materials available to the contractor because notice to proceed is the beginning of the time clock for penalties. So presently, they're trying to work out an arrangement with FP&L to borrow equipment and conduit from the FP&L stockyard and then replace it by the new delivery of materials. But until that has been approved by FP&L, the contractor does not want to go on the time clock.
Okay, the contractor asked for a 2-week delay, which is this week. We're not obligated, in my opinion, to extend it further. So I'll be directing Mr. Brandon to issue that notice to proceed. Contractor can put pressure on FP&L to get what they need to begin. In addition, FP&L was supposed to be removing poles. At least they were gonna notify us when they were gonna start. Any word on that?
2 to 4 weeks out,
2 to 4 weeks out from what date?
Friday, yesterday, Thursday, yesterday.
Okay. And then finally, we're waiting for the, plan to install the streetlights along E1A. I believe August 19th is the day for them to present that plan. So we want to diary that.
Okay. I'm not up on that.
Yeah, that's, and that's the report from Mr. Brent. Okay. The town manager's report. Mr. Thrasher, perhaps you could just update us on the Barrier Island final report on feasibility study.
The final feasibility fire study has been completed, has been distributed to all parties, decision-making parties of each community. In essence, the feasibility of doing this is zero. It will not proceed forward. There are other communities who have already made arrangements with their existing fire providers, and without the cooperative effort of all 6 communities, financially it's impossible to proceed. The information that we have obtained in this report is going to be useful going forward. I think it was a very educational tool, and because the fees were spread among 6 communities, it was a rather economical way to obtain such information. And as other communities have done, the town will as well use it as a negotiating tool when our
Contract bill rate comes up in 2020, I believe.
That's correct. But at this time, this project will not go forward. That's not to say that in the future that it will not. But I still remain of the opinion that it is a very logical way to proceed as far as functionality and provision of service, the level of service. And that concludes that part of my report. Unless there are any questions of me in that regard.
Not on the feasibility study. Mr. Cudmore raised a question about drainage on Polo and perhaps some other areas around town as well. Perhaps you could just touch on the condition of drainage in the town and mosquito control. That's also been an issue that we somewhat consider that.
Okay, that's a big gamut, but I will try to approach that. In regards to drainage on Polo near Old School, that is the lowest area in our town. There's nothing that we can do to change that elevation, but it is the lowest elevation in our town, the lowest point in town, and that's why we have our drainage pumps located at that intersection. The water table is very high there, in my opinion, it's very high, and the use of irrigation along the right-of-way is actually not necessary. However, residents continue to water, and you know we've been in up until the last week, we've been in a very dry climate and dry situation, so the water collecting, in my opinion, is drainage, is irrigation. It happens when we have equipment run off the road that the area becomes rutted, and the landscape people simply throw new sod where the rut occurs. And through time, there is a buildup, as Mr. Cudmore expressed, a buildup of the elevation, so that the elevation of the soil becomes higher than the pavement, and it is not susceptible for allowing runoff from the roadway. It seems to me that the only possible remedy is for a creation of minor swells in the area of these properties on Polo, north end of Polo, so that we create a swell area, a minor swell area, so that the soil and grass materials actually become lower than the top surface of the pavement which would allow for a natural flow of water from the pavement to the swell areas, and then it could percolate. It's not the best percolating area because those materials, in essence, under there are very spongy muck. When we installed our pumps in that area, with the heavy equipment, excavators were used, and they dug, and as they dug, the soil actually popped out of the ground as though it was cork. So it's a very challenging problem. In my opinion, it is improvable, but it is not solvable. And if the current budget passes, which for the first time we have a reasonable amount of money in roads and streets, $200,000, I believe that beginning the new fiscal year that we can address not only in this area but in some other areas in our town that have been located, identified, the creation of swells, minor swells, not a big allergy. We would bring some equipment in. We have them, we've created them in various parts of the town. Bring some equipment in, and you basically pull back the dirt that's there, the grass, the soil. You give a slight concave creation, and then you put soil, sod back in.
Is that within the right, that's within the right of way, correct?
All within the right of way, yes, that is correct. So we have the right to do that, and you know that from the NPDS perspective, or I would remind you of it, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, NPDS, that we are not a curb and gutter community, as many communities have curb and gutters, California gutters and so on. We are what they call a swale, a SWALE community, and so we have been able to meet our NPDS requirements because of swales existing. So that $200,000 would be used in a combination of repaving the roads which have the greatest need, and also the creation of minor swales in the area.
Can I
Yes.
comment on this, just because I used to live right next door to you, just south of you, and we never turned on our sprinkler system, it's so wet down there.
Yeah.
In fact, you could look, there's a hole in our driveway, you could see the Spanish River just flowing underneath.
Yeah.
So I think creating the swells is good, but I think to educate people to turn off their sprinklers or use them in moderation, because I don't think I ever turned mine on down there. And that's just creating more water
Well,
for a very low area with a lot of muck.
yeah, it's just not necessary, and we have on multiple occasions informed residents in the area of there's no need to turn on their irrigation. However, because they don't actually, oftentimes don't manage their properties and their landscaping, it sometimes gets in the hands of the landscape people. At any rate,
I think I run mine 2 months a
We
year,
do.
the other end of the river.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. And actually, if you educate the people to say it's going to save them a lot of money. The
It
money
would.
comes
It
from
would.
irrigation.
Definitely, and also, but I can tell you that for over a decade, that communication has been going on
Yeah.
between me and the residents, and we still are dealing with it. So, of course, we have turnover in residents, and we will continue to try to educate. I will say, just from a technical standpoint, and Mr. Coopy touched on it, that whenever we have a demolition and a rebuild, we ask for drainage calculations, mathematical calculation of how the runoff, the first, I think it's first 3 inch of runoff will be handled on their property. And so we are able to improve our situation over time as houses get rebuilt, tore down, rebuilt. However, the older homes, even to the vintage of the Crocker resident, the old Crocker resident home there, we still deal with probably a insufficient drainage system per property. I don't know if any of that's really making sense. Am I communicating well enough?
I think you,
Yeah, I get it.
You can't make residents redo their civil engineering
That's
plans
right.
unless they're pulling a permit. That's what that means.
Can I show you a picture of
Sure.
what happens across the street from me? This wasn't a heavy rain, and this is every time it rains. That's what comes off that driveway. It's crazy.
You know what, in a heavy rain, I couldn't even get in my driveway, I had to wait hours to get home.
Right. And this- and
Before
this-
the pumps.
Always water.
but in your question, at least from your comments, why don't the pumps remove that water?
No, that's not it at all. My question, their question is that I believe you are required to retain your own water up to 1 inch of drainage or something like that. Yet there are homes that the water just sheds off of, they don't retain any water at all, as this house doesn't. I mean, as soon as it rains, that water starts flowing out into the street. There's no retainage whatsoever, there's no swailing whatsoever. And
Well-
that's the problem.
I also would like to go on record that I believe that when those houses were built, they met the code requirements, so,
That's the
I
old
don't know
Crocker
the
home,
details
isn't it?
behind it, pardon me?
That's the old Crocker home.
That's
isn't it?
correct.
Which was built in 93, 90.
Well, actually, that was a renovation more than a new house construction.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and so it only had, but the house across, directly across from you, it kind of sits out. Those were all low-lying lots at one time, and they just flooded out. And so as people built on the lots, it's created more water.
Right, but they don't do any retention
No.
whatsoever.
I-
It all comes off the street, and then if you walk down the street, you see that the sod is mounded up,
Yeah,
like Noah was referring to, that,
I think the swales could help, but I don't think we can go back to the residents and mandate them do the swales. But it would be to their benefit to do some on-site too.
I've talked to the neighbor who owns this home,
Yeah,
and he's willing, I mean, he realizes that
yeah,
he can't get out of his house half the time.
yeah.
You know, since I'm gonna be redoing the driveway bit and some landscaping, I intend to do,
The
much
drainage.
better drainage, but I can't take the whole streets
Yeah.
of water, you know.
Would a French drain?
Oh,
at the
yeah,
bottom of
absolutely,
that-
but like it did at the Clarks, I mean, like, say, you look at where there was always water standing in front of the Clarks, now, even in a good rain, between the swale and,
Unfortunately, in my opinion, you're always going to have runoff coming down that roadway, because it is a slope from Banyan to Old School. We can do things to improve it. I do not believe we're in a position to solve the problem. In addition to that, you're not just able to pump out water into the intercoastal at will.
Right.
And you perhaps know that as a builder.
oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of limitations and challenges. And I believe that going forward after the new budget, that we'll be able to make some improvements in that area. That has been my intention. The communication to maintenance people, to our employees that deal with that sort of thing is to, when possible, to work on reestablishing swell areas throughout town. We've done that, some in Place au Soleil, we've done that in the core area, so, but that's just coming out of our in-house capabilities. What I am thinking about is one in which a contractor is utilized with some equipment. We do hand and shovel sort of thing in-house, so,
Yeah, next year.
next year, if you approve the budget.
Well, it sounds
I don't have it yet.
No, well, whatever budget it might be, but it sounds like a reasonable approach, at least we're obviously aware of the problem, taking some steps to address it within the confines of our limitations.
Yeah, because I think there's things that the neighbors can do, but, as I said, there is some standing water, a little bit of road work could probably raise that just a couple inches, and at least get it towards the drains or to the lift station.
I took a caseload at the end of Old School, I took a canoe out of my.
That happens, I'm just saying there's water standing there today, and a lot of it has to do with irrigation and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that as bad as the situation is, and when I first came here, it was our first real revolt, I thought. I wondered what in the world are all the people doing here? And it were residents in that area, and it was 3-4 foot of water at
Yeah,
times.
it was. I lived there.
I love this gentleman. It's Charlie Beely.
Beely.
Oh, my. At times he can go off on you.
It was the best place for tadpoles.
What?
It was the best place for tadpoles in town.
Yeah.
He had waterfront property.
So we made big improvements, but we can make more.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, before you go on, may I ask Town Manager a question regarding the Barrier Island fire study?
Sure.
You've made statements in the past that that was all going to be paid for, equally shared by the different municipalities, and I just wondered, so I don't have to make a record request, and
Okay.
Ms. Reed asked to respond to it. Have we gotten money from them yet?
We have gotten money from everybody but one.
You going after them? I mean, not
Is your
politely,
question,
are we
have
going
I
to ask
gone
them to
after
pay?
them?
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Are you going to pursue getting payment in some form, politely, I hope, from the last holdout?
Yeah, I'm not gonna make a federal case about it, unless
Sit
directed
quietly.
otherwise by our commission, but the answer to your question is yes, we have, recently reminded them of their commitment and are hoping that, they will honor that commitment.
Okay.
We've sent an invoice, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Rita?
Yeah.
And so the response back was that we will be processing, we'll send this in for processing. As of this date, I couldn't tell you if we've received a check, but
Okay.
I don't have knowledge that we have. But, you know, it was kind of a gentleman's agreement between the six. It was not equal distribution of costs because it was determined that they could not participate if there wasn't some leeway. And so I believe the communities of Gulfstream and Highland Beach, Ocean Ridge, and Manalapan made up the difference.
Well, thank you for the answer. Regarding
So you're gonna honor your statement, no public records request in this matter?
I'm sorry.
That's right, you
He's
did.
on the record here.
Regarding the drainage, I observed that on Polo Cove for years and years, and I know as a landscape architect, Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, a number of municipalities have required homeowners to put trench drains in their driveway to retain their stormwater runoff. Didn't work, they always abandoned that. I know the town pays, I think it's the Little Club, so we can dump our stormwater into their lake, and then that gets dumped in intercoastal. But I'm wondering, why can't we capture that water and just do the same thing with our storm drainage? Just put a trench drain down the curb, install a curb, put a trench drain, and send that water to the lake.
Well,
I'm just an idea.
I would be more than willing to do that and make that suggestion a decade ago, but South Florida Water Management has a different perspective on what water retention is all about. And so everything that we do, regardless of how it looks, is in some way monitored by some regulatory agency. And so we are a swell and swell community. We're not a curb and gutter, as I said, to run that water down there. And our NPDS reporting, which is an annual, hope I don't get a public records on that, but our NPDS annual reporting has been going on for, I'm gonna say we're into our third 5-year cycle. So we have to report everything that we do, our grass cuttings, our illicit discharge, the flow of water, we have to go out and observe the water in the catch basins. It's amazing what this little community is required to do. Briny Breeze got out of it, we tried to get out of it and was not able to do it. So we have a lot of eyes on us.
I
Not
can
only your
appreciate-
eyes, but other eyes.
I can appreciate the challenge. I know personally, driving my boat on the intercoastal, occasionally you'll see the outflow pipes from the golf course lakes just sudsing up the intercoastal, and just, you wonder what's in it, but I thought that was the solution for stormwater. But thank
It
you.
is, and we've done, and recently we installed a new catch basin over on Palmway, down
Oh.
towards the end.
Yeah,
And they had to go through permitting, South Florida Water Management, so they're not keen in letting water just being discharged freely into the intercoastal, and they call it illicit discharge, and we're supposed to monitor that, which we are.
Okay, I think we covered that.
I hope so.
The next ARPB meeting is September 22nd. There will not be a meeting in August. Next report, Finance Director.
You have been submitted financial reports, and I would try to answer any questions you have in that regard.
Any
It's
questions?
not required to be approved.
Any questions of the town manager? Accepted as submitted.
Thank you.
Acting Chief.
The report has submitted no additions this month.
Any questions? If not, we'll accept that as well as submitted. I'd like to turn now to Mr. Ganger's letter of resignation. I received a letter on July 11th, which I would like to read. Dear Mayor Morgan, with great reluctance, I hereby indicate the need to resign from the Gulfstream Town Commission effective immediately. My physicians have advised that I need to concentrate on recovery of mental processes that were lost when I had a stroke in April 2016. I began a long-term therapy program today and am optimistic of the outcome. Needless to say, my support of the town and its commission is enduring, and I hope to find ways to support your efforts as my recovery progresses. Sincerely, Bob Ganger. Bob was an important member of this commission, truly a unique one, I might say, one with knowledge, experience, and able to express it with eloquence that really evidenced his leadership capabilities. He also was unique, in my opinion, as someone in the town of Gulfstream who could give effort, spend countless hours and energy helping this town, improving this town, preserving this town. Whether it was in the book that he wrote about his home, which was an historical documentation of Gulfstream, or his service on the ARPB, where he served as chairman, or on this commission, where he was a commissioner and vice mayor. But beyond that, Bob Ganger really, I think, is going to be missed in the short term, at least anyways, until he recovers, with the Florida Coalition. He's worked tirelessly to help preserve the communities of the South Florida area, from Palm Beach down to Boca Raton, East Delray, West Boynton, attending meeting with commissioners, legislators, developers, meeting with residents across that area to marshal support for efforts that would preserve the character of South Florida. I think I speak for everyone here, and I'm sure I speak for you as well, in wishing him a speedy and complete recovery. In that vein, we need to replace Mr. Ganger's position with a new commissioner. That is a job by the commission to appoint. In my opinion, the ARPB is the source of experience for someone coming on the commission. They deal with the issues that we deal with in terms of the design manual, and in addressing many of the issues of town preservation that the commission also confronts. It would be my suggestion that Paul Lyons, the chairman of the ARPB, be considered to fill this commission spot of Mr. Ganger. But I open the floor to other suggestions and discussion.
if that's a good name, chairman. You were chairman, weren't you?
I was.
Is he agreeable to, do you have any idea?
I believe he is.
Okay. I think it's a good suggestion, a very good suggestion. I like he's knowledgeable of what's been going on in town, the building and the new construction, so I think he'd make a very good choice.
Comments?
Yeah, I've known Paul quite a while, and I know that he's experienced on the ARPB. I think as John, the mayor said, he's been actively involved when we've had projects in the town, you know, whether it's having meetings on his position as ARPB to meet with developers about proposed projects and things like that to preserve the character of the town. You know, probably a little more active than some of our other volunteers in that regard, and also supporting the commission and the mayor. So if he's agreeable, I would support him being approved or appointed to the position.
Donna, any comments?
Well, my knowledge of him isn't as great as yours, but I have, you know, had a conversation or two with him, and he seemed very energetic and very willing in working on the ARPB, and I think he would be a good choice.
I think he's been very committed about coming back to all the meetings, and that's to be commendable because a lot of people don't.
That's what impressed me when I was chairman of the ARPB. Paul had come on board, and he spends quite a bit of time up north in the summer. I believe in the Hamptons, I'm not quite sure, but he was there, and we had a meeting, an ARPB meeting in July. And he flew in, arrived that morning for the meeting, and flew back that afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of commitment that really impressed me. Plus, he also has a business and financial background that I think that would be helpful to the commission.
Well, that being said, I'd like to recommend the appointment of Paul Lyons to replace Mr. Ganger. Nobody can replace Mr. Ganger, but on the commission at this moment.
I believe this would be done by motion, so is that?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Also in that regard, with Mr. Ganger's departure, the spot of vice mayor is open. We need to appoint someone to that position.
I'd love to appoint Tom Stanley back to being the vice mayor.
I
If he'll
agree.
take it.
I agree. I guess is a motion required for that, or is that, it is?
Did Tom agree?
Yes.
Doesn't matter if he agrees or not.
Majority rules.
Yes, absolutely. John, do you want to move?
I'll move to appoint Tom Stanley as the vice mayor.
And second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Congratulations. Okay. We also have an item to discuss, and that is the mutual aid agreement among the Palm Beach County law enforcement agencies. This is an agreement where those agencies, various municipalities, agree to cooperate to render support voluntarily, assisting each other. I think, is that an adequate summary?
Yes, it is.
Interaction. We're required to vote on approving such an agreement, and I think this one goes for the next 3 years, I believe. I think it's a 3-year agreement term,
So,
or 2021.
2021.
It's 4 or 5 years. In any event, any questions of Mr. Thrasher about this agreement? If not, is there a motion to approve this mutual aid agreement with Palm Beach County law enforcement agencies?
Make a motion to approve the agreement as presented.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Okay, finally, items by commissioners. Mr. Stanley, I believe you have a report.
Yes. Last time, I think we discussed, there was something on our agenda about a corner cut on the corner of Pelican and Andrews, which was actually on the south part of the town where the towns of Delray and Gulfstream connect. I got with the staff, we sent a letter to the, I guess it would be the applicant in this case, the lot owner and their attorney, of all the things that if we had, in a perfect world, that we would want to please the town of Gulfstream and our independent professionals and engineers. I think yesterday, because I was traveling, I met with, or 2 days ago, with Doug Campbell, Mr. Campbell, who's the attorney for the lot owner. He's been working with Janice Rustin, the assistant city attorney. So they've, I think I might have misspoke at the last meeting. You know, we were looking at a 50-foot square on that lot there on the corner of Pelican and Andrews. And Delray's going to deed that to the property owner. It was a mistake. It was actually accepted out of a personal representative's deed about 30 some odd years ago. What we were only concerned about, which is not a terribly big deal, was a little bit of it's just a little pie-shaped corner. Traveling, some of it has pavement in it, some of it doesn't, that the owner would like cleaned up as part of this project. I did say, yes, these are some of the things that towns do, staff and commissioners. So where we left it is that I still said I wanted the town, we all want a letter from the city of Delray engineering department saying that it was okay, that it was sufficient to have a little curb cut deeded from Delray to the owner. And then reserving easements for ingress and egress over it to both Delray and Gulfstream. And actually how you do it is you go down the center line, and this half is Gulfstream, and this half is an easement to Delray. It's very small. So they're supposed to probably in the next 6 weeks provide us a copy of the deed with the reservations for Delray and Gulfstream. I said, yes, you need both towns because it's where they intersect. Skip can review it for legal sufficiency. I don't think it'll take that long. There'll be a letter from, I'm not quite sure of the content, from the engineering department, hopefully, of the city of Delray. We'll have to approve it here after Skip reviews the deed. And he may have comments, if that's what he does. And then after that, I think the matter will proceed and be resolved. And then, I don't know, some future point, maybe after all this is cleaned up, they may come in here with a application for new construction on that corner lot. You know, I don't know. So it's moving along, and we're doing what we're supposed to do.
So we'd be looking maybe at the October meeting for another review.
Yeah, I mean, the attorney's been working on it a year. So I would say, yeah, September, either the September meeting or the October meeting, most likely October. They'll come back, you know, with the package, and then we'll look at it again. And if he submits it ahead of time, then the staff can obviously send it to Skip, since it is we would be getting, like a 6 square foot corner, we would be getting an easement, which would adjoin to the streets we already maintain there, which would be Pelican.
Good, thank you, Tom. Any other comments, points for the good of the order? If not, this meeting's adjourned.